Welcome to another edition of Big Ten Spotlight. He is Deon Thomas, the all-time leading scorer in Illinois Fighting Illini history. I am Aaron York, the all-time leader in Penn State basketball TikTok reaction videos. And those have been surprisingly good lately, surprisingly good for Penn State. But there's been so much going on in the Big Ten since we were last able to record. We saw Purdue reassert themselves as the dominant force in the conference. We saw Wisconsin go on a 3-game losing streak. We saw Indiana look like the whole world was falling apart around them, and then all for them just to bounce back, all for them just to see their top player get injured. We'll talk about that. Well, Minnesota won 2 in a row after they were on a losing streak. So much has been going on. Let's start with the big game from Sunday. Purdue going into Madison, trying to show that they are the dominant force in the Big Ten. They succeed in doing that. They lead for the entire second half. Our guy, Lance Jones, we talked about him being an X factor. He certainly looked like the X factor in this game. He leads them with 20 points. He makes some huge plays down the stretch, including a breakaway layup that helped seal the game after Tyler Wall turned it over. Zach Edey did his thing. Braden Smith had a nice game. Purdue did what it needed to do, while Wisconsin, it wasn't a big deal when they lost to Nebraska. It wasn't a big deal when they lost to Purdue, but now it's a big deal because they just lost to this Michigan team that couldn't beat anybody. And the big thing for Wisconsin, Deon, is their shooting has not been up to par lately. They were only 3 for 19 against Purdue, and that was a pretty close game, a 6-point game. So a couple of those go in. AJ Storr missed all 4 of his. That could have made the difference. So yeah, what's the big takeaway from the big game on Sunday, and what's wrong with Wisconsin? How do they get back to their winning ways?
Well, let's start with the Purdue loss. Let's start with the Nebraska loss. As you mentioned, losing to Nebraska may not be sexy, but it's not horrible. I mean, Nebraska is a tournament team, and they're really good. When those guys really get clicking, especially from 3-point range, they can beat anybody in the country. You saw they took Illinois to overtime, and before that had won a big game, and then they go and they put it on Wisconsin. Losing to Purdue, not a bad thing. You lose to Zach Edey, who's on the Naismith Award for Player of the Year. He's made the Naismith Award for defense, budgeting to Jaden and Fletcher. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer both have improved tremendously. Braden Smith is the head of the snake that makes that thing go. I know Zach Edey gets all of the love as well, and he deserves it. But Braden Smith is the orchestrator in that band. Lance Jones, as you mentioned, has really he's doing what they needed him to do. They needed him to be a scorer. They needed him to be kind of a Swiss Army knife, so to say, because some days he's putting up big numbers, other days he's not. As he came out against Wisconsin, as you mentioned, led the team in scoring, put up big buckets in that game with 20 points and 6 rebounds. The loss to Michigan, that's disturbing. That's the one that you have to question, where are we right now? AJ Storr played well, missed some shots when it was needed. Chucky Hepburn, always that ever present guy. He put up 17 points. He normally does what the team needs for them to win. Only 1 assist from your point guard. Klesmit didn't play like himself. Tyler Wall, is kind of the go-go gadget guy. He does whatever the team needs. But this is a huge loss. And it's a huge loss because when you go back and you look at, as you mentioned, how Michigan has played, Michigan has struggled. And they've struggled really finding out who they are as a team. They've struggled with defining roles at times. And you can't you can't go on the road and lose to a team that's struggling. And that's what Wisconsin did. That's what the Badgers did. You talked about their shooting. I don't know where it's gone these last few games, but they've shot the ball. And in this game, they only shot the ball 26% from three. Shot it well from the floor, 46 overall, but you cannot go to 5 for 19 with 26%, and then you shoot the ball not so well at the free throw line either. I mean, you can't have those two things. And then another thing that you can't have, not that Wisconsin is a big rebounding team, but they're solid. But you go and you get, you lose on the boards. Michigan looks like the more dominant interior team. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Michigan because I believe they have a lot of really good pieces. But as I mentioned before, they've been struggling on who they are. So it's hard to win on the road in the Big Ten. But when you go on the road and you're Wisconsin, and I saw this little posting on TikTok the other day, and they had the only teams that were squarely in the Big Ten to the NCAA tournament was Purdue and Wisconsin. And they had, Illinois and some others as should be ins. Everyone is looking at you. And this is a team that deserves to be under the microscope because they are historically so doggone good. So it's shocking to see them go on a 3-game losing streak. Again, 2 of those teams that they lost to are 2 of the top teams in the Big Ten. Michigan's scraping the bottom of the barrel and was struggling. Does this game get Michigan going? We'll see. But man, this hurts Wisconsin, and this is one of those things now that they're going to have to try to replace this. Not that they're out of the tournament or anything like that, but it definitely hurts them as they move into their next game on the road, mind you, against a tough-minded Rutgers team. So does this carry over? Does this turn into loss number 4? We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think that Rutgers game is going to be really interesting this weekend, even if it's not going to be pretty. We know it's not going to be pretty because those games at the arena formerly known as the Rack are never pretty, but...
Whoa. I know Jersey Mike's then bought the name, but that thing is always the Rack.
That's why I called it the Rack. I didn't say Jersey Mike. You said Jersey Mike. You said Jersey Mike. I said the arena
formerly known as the Rack. See, that's what's going on.
That's me making fun of Rutgers for changing the name.
All you young people want to just change stuff.
No, that was me. That was me paying homage to the Rack. I'm making fun of Rutgers for changing the name of a classic arena name. That's me.
Now I'm in development. That's what happens, boy, when people start putting money in there. You better change the name, but it'll still be the Rack at heart. No, I was just it's great. Still the Rack at heart. I have beef. I have beef with the whole state of New Jersey after we had a New Jersey transit fiasco with my wife getting home last night. It was an absolute nightmare. So I got beef with New Jersey now for multiple reasons. Anyway. That game's going to be ugly. Slow down our taping. That forced us to tape today.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were scheduled, and I had to run out, and I had to go pick her up because of the transit disaster. So there you go.
Yeah, you got to take care of it.
Not feeling it. It's New Jersey's upset at me because my Nittany Lions went in there and had an absolute ball of a time last week.
Maybe that's what it was. That's why they did all of that stuff, just to get back at you, Double A.
Yep. So there's my beef with New Jersey. But all right, so yeah, it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be ugly, especially if Wisconsin does not improve this 3-point shooting. They couldn't shoot against Purdue. Against Michigan, they're only 5 for 19. Connor Segan, who gave them a lift earlier in the season, he could not hit a shot against Michigan, and he struggled from 3-point range against Purdue. One guy who can help them win against Rutgers and pull themselves out of this losing streak, Tyler Wall. Against Purdue, he led the team in scoring with 20 points, and it was not an easy 20 points. He grabbed 6 offensive rebounds. A lot of the time, he was going straight at Zach Edey and shooting it over him. So this was not a cheap 20 points. This was 20 hard-earned points. I thought he would be limited by Edey. He went right at the big man and was able to put it in the basket. So I gave him a lot of credit. And against Michigan, 6 of 7 for 12 points, and he was doing his thing again. The only question is, why did he only have 7 attempts if he hit almost all of his shots? Instead, Wisconsin misses a lot of 3-pointers, so that's going to be key for them. Just get it to Wall, because he's playing so well right now, and once the defense focuses on him, it'll open up some opportunities for the 3-point shooters outside. So that is certainly something to look for this weekend, is Tyler Wall. Can he carry Wisconsin? He's playing well despite the team not playing well, but can he carry them to a victory in a tough arena? That is going to be exciting to watch. So another storyline, I was talking about my Nittany Lions winning at Rutgers. Then they went into Bloomington. They shocked Indiana. And then Indiana fans on Twitter were having a meltdown. I was enjoying it immensely because it really felt like Penn State destroyed the Indiana program the way we shot in that gym in an arena assembly hall where we haven't won for 10 years. And Penn State shot the ball well, and Penn State ran away with it in the second half despite falling behind early. It was a fun time for me, and Indiana fans were panicking, and they just didn't even know what to do with themselves. But I give Indiana credit. They went into Columbus on Tuesday night. They picked up a huge win with Anthony Leal, the hometown hero. If this happened in Bloomington, the place would have exploded. I was picturing He hit this 3-point shot in the final minute to put them ahead. If that happened in Bloomington, Assembly Hall might not even be there anymore. The reaction would have been that wild. But it did happen in Columbus. Leal hits a big shot. But then after that, they get the big turnover with Jamison Battle dribbling the ball off his foot. They get a breakaway layup. It looks like it's going to seal the game. And Khalil Ware, when he goes up for that layup, something happened with his leg where he comes down awkwardly. Indiana was able to get the rebound, and they held on for the win. But now the question is, what's the deal with Khalil Ware with Indiana? They have some must-win games ahead. And one of them is at their biggest rival, Purdue. And that is a game that if they are going to have a chance to win in Mackey Arena, they need to have Khalil Ware. So, yeah, how does Indiana get this done as we look forward to this clash of rivals on Saturday with or without Ware? What do the Hoosiers have to do to have a chance?
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be next to impossible. I mean, let's just be flat out honest. The loss of Khalil Ware is huge. I mean, and not just going up against Zach Edey and the Purdue Boilermakers. That's just a big loss for them, period. I mean, that young man anchors their interior defense. He's an excellent shot blocker, gets up and down the floor really well. So it's going to be hard for them. They're going to need big games out of freshman Mackenzie Mbako. And we both know the McDonald's All-American has it in him to be able to put up big numbers. And he's going to have to do this if they have any chance to beat the Boilermakers. Malik Reneau has become their guy, their go-to guy who they've been feeding. I mean, you talked about the game when they beat Ohio State. I mean, he had 26 points and 14 rebounds. Another double-double. He had a big game against Illinois. He's had consistent big games playing both inside and out, because this is a young man that can step out and shoot the ball as well. But he's been a real inside force for them, especially since Khalil Ware has been out. So you ask, what do they need to do to win? Man, they're going to have to turn Purdue over. And that's one of the things that Purdue does not do, is turn over the basketball. So they're going to have to figure out a way to really put pressure on the young guards and get them flustered, and get them to turn the ball over. Renault is going to have another big game like he did against Ohio State. And Mbako is going to have to really step up. I mean, he's a great outside shooter. Same word, means the same thing. He's a great shooter from the outside, has the ability to put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. He's going to have to definitely step up his intensity on the offensive end while being that guy on the other end as well, because he is a really good and lengthy defender. Trey Galloway, who has been good for them throughout his time at Indiana, is going to have another big game as he did against Ohio State. So you're really going to have to bring it. The freshman's going to have to step up, and the other guys are going to have to play the same way, and then they're going to have to play better defense again against a team that does not turn over the ball very much. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but this is the first time possibly in my career I'll be cheering for the Hoosiers.
How about that?
You need Illinois needs Ohio State to lose another game, but and I'm sure my Hoosier fans that are out there listening to this might be happy, but the Boilermakers may not be happy about that. But that's something that'll be able to help Illinois, especially with them going into the Breslin Center. The Breslin Center to play Michigan State. Big games this weekend that have a lot riding on them.
Yes, I agree with you about Indiana's chances. We saw last month now in January, Purdue went into Assembly Hall and laid a beatdown on the Hoosiers. And we know this game is going to be in front of the entire nation. It is a primetime game on Fox. So we know the TV executives are going to be hoping for Khalil Ware to show up so they have more star power so that the Indiana can keep that game close enough to provide a solid entertainment product, because it was not a solid entertainment product when these two teams met in Bloomington. But yeah, it's going to be
a rivalry game too, man. So this is why this game is on Fox. This is this is like Illinois, Mizzou. This is as big, and it doesn't get the notoriety of the Tobacco Row, Duke and North Carolina. But in Indiana, this is it.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be packed. Those kids over there in Mackey are going to be, in the Assembly Hall. They're in Mackey.
They're in Mackey, this time, yeah.
Those kids in Mackey are going to be, and they're already loud. That's one of the best atmospheres in college basketball. They're really going to be losing their shit once the Hoosiers come in there, man. This is a big thing for them, so they're going to have to come with it, big dog, because, man, this is going to be tough.
Yeah, and it's going to take another big game from Galloway, but it's probably going to be Lance Jones on him. We know Lance Jones can lock down opposing guards, but Galloway just had that huge game, made big plays. He had the assist on that big shot by Anthony Leal at the end. So Galloway, it's good that he's coming off that huge game against Ohio State, because they need him to be at his absolute best against Purdue. And like you said, another freshman who could step up. Gabe Copps has been forced into the starting lineup because of the Xavier Johnson injury.
Yeah.
Injuries now he's been just out of the lineup 2 times now, 2 different stints. So it'd be nice if they got something from him. But Mbako is so talented, and I don't think he's fully realized it. It feels like he hasn't scratched the surface of what his potential is yet. And it would be a good start for him to do that on Saturday. We've seen flashes. We've seen flashes from Mbako, but everyone's going to need to step up, and they're going to need a healthy Ware. We did get an update, not much of an update from Mike Woodson this week, as Ware did miss practice on Wednesday, but his status for Saturday is still unknown. So
you can be for sure they're going to be tight-lipped all up with that all the way through game time.
Yeah, we're not going to know until we see the Fox broadcast and they show him warming up on the court. Yeah, exactly. Is it going to be Ware there? Is it going to be Renew at the 5? Who's going to be there? Who's going to be there tipping the ball off? All right. So the other big game. We talk about the big Fox game now. The big CBS game, 2:00 on Saturday Eastern, 1:00 Central Time, will be Illinois at Michigan State. Michigan State, I've got questions about Michigan State. They did just lose in Minnesota, but it looks like Minnesota's playing well. We talked about Minnesota earlier this year as a sleeper NCAA tournament team. Then they went on a pretty big losing streak, but now they've won a couple in a row. They beat Northwestern and they beat Michigan State. So that's 2 teams that are projected in the field right now. Yeah. And Dawson Garcia is playing well, and Cam Christie has stepped up in a big way. So I'm not going to kill Michigan State for losing that game, but I just don't know what the ceiling, although I question the ceiling because we know they've got Tyson Walker, and AJ Hoggard's played better lately, and Malik Hall's pretty good. They just don't have that big interior presence that, the player that's like a Khalil Ware, that's like a Zach E, that we'd like to see. Maybe Sissoko is a nice role player, but he's not the big scorer. I feel like they need someone else. And too often it's been Walker and Hogard trying to carry the team from the backcourt.
Yeah.
They're a good team. I think Michigan State's, you talk about how they're not considered solidly in, how there's only 2 teams that are considered solidly in. I don't think Michigan State has to do a ton of work, but they do have to do a ton of work if they want to get up, if they want to raise their seed line. They're probably going to settle in around a 7 or an 8 if they keep playing like this. They are only 500 in the conference. They are being buoyed by that big win in Detroit against Baylor where we saw them at their best. So this is going to be a big test for them against your Illini. Illini looking good. They just pulled out that win against Nebraska. That was a thrilling game with Keisei Tominaga going off for a career-high 31 points after he disappeared for a while. The last 3 games before that, he wasn't doing much. And then the loss against Northwestern last night, he didn't do much. But yeah, again, tough road environment, him putting up those points and Illinois able to counterpunch and get it done at the end. I was really impressed, even though they did blow a 10-point lead with about 3.5 to go. So yeah, but Nebraska's tough when they have Tominaga and Mast playing like that. They are really tough. So that was a pretty good win for Illinois. And then we'll see how they do on the road. How are you feeling about this game?
Well, I'll tell you this. Let's go back to Keisei Tominaga. Man, I mean, this is a young man, and this is the life of a shooter. You know, some days it's great, and other days it's not great. But that young man that night in Champaign, Illinois, was tremendous. I mean, I have not seen a guy shoot the ball like that at the college level in a long time, and he went off. So, I mean, that was an ugly, good win for Illinois against a really good Nebraska team. They're going to surprise some people. They're in the tournament. People better be careful and better watch out for them, because it's not just Keisei. They got a bunch of guys on that team that can really put the ball in the basket. They're an older team. So that's why I say it's a good win for Illinois coming off of this. And it was really good to see Terrence Shannon get himself going. He looked like he was finding his track, was able to knock down a couple threes. Coleman Hawkins played great. I mean, Dane Danger, who doesn't get a whole lot of time, when he came in there for the few minutes that he did, he put up great numbers. I think he finished with like 7.6 rebounds or something like that in about 12 minutes. It wasn't very long that he was out there, but he did work. So to see the balance of guys from the bench to go along with their starters, and not to mention, you know, Marcus Damask, who, in my opinion, people need to put on the Naismith watch list, because this kid has just been flat lighting it up all year once he got himself settled. But going into the Breslin Center, man, is always difficult to play. But you said something earlier that, to me, if you look at those, you know, Michigan State teams from the past, they always had a guy on the interior, you know, that could get them buckets, that could get them rebounds. And right now, Sissoko's not doing that. I mean, he's a pick and roll guy that you can throw lobs to, that could block shots around the basket. But they are so guard dependent that it's really difficult for them. And this is going to be another difficult game for them playing against Illinois. You know, Michigan State likes to get up and down the court and play fast. Illinois likes to get up and down the court and play fast and transition, but they can slow it down and become really effective with the booty ball in the half court. You take that and you go, you know, with Tyson Walker and some of the other smaller guards that Michigan State has, and it creates a mismatch for them, because you got to figure out where to take Malik Hall. You have to figure out where to put A.J. Hogard, whether you're going to put them on Marcus, or you're going to put them on Terrence Shannon Jr., or you're going to put who's you going to put on Ty Rogers? Because if you put the smaller guard on Ty Rogers, now he's doing that. But if you do what most teams have been doing, is trying to what they call cross switch, which is take the interior player and put him on Ty Rogers, since they know Ty Rogers isn't going to shoot. Right. But what Illinois has done to counter that, is they've put Ty Rogers in the pick and roll. So now, now you're still putting your big in a situation where he's going to have to defend a Terrence Shannon Jr. coming off a screen, or or someone coming at him and attacking him downhill, while Ty, who moves so much, has an opportunity now to rebound the basketball. I mean, the game against Nebraska, he had 6 offensive rebounds to go, to complete a double-digit rebounding night. It just creates so many mismatches and opportunities for Illinois that this is going to be a difficult game for Michigan State. Who needs to step up and play better for them? Malik Hall's going to have to step up and have a big game. Tyson Walker's going to have a big game. AJ Holgard is going to have a big game. Last game against Minnesota, Jaden Atkins played really well. I think he had 16 points or something like that, 16, 17 points. He's going to have to play well. If they and again, Jaden Atkins is not a big guard. So now you this is going to be a tough matchup for Michigan State. Illinois beat them in Champaign without Terrence Shannon, and now you have Terrence Shannon back. So that adds another depth of what Michigan State is going to have to deal with instead of just being concerned about Marcus and Coleman. Now you got the 3-headed snake back, and Ty Rogers is probably the most important out of all of them. So it's going to be a tough game, man, but I'm looking forward to it because it's always great to be in and play in the Breslin Center. I remember those days going up in Michigan State and playing up there. It's always a great atmosphere. So it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a CBS game, man, so I'm sure everybody will be watching.
Yeah, that game's going to be huge, and because Michigan State, on neutral court, Michigan State would be the clear underdog, but being at home with the Breslin Center behind them, that's going to make it a little more interesting. I think I just looked at on KenPom, Michigan State is projected to win by 1 point. So that game is expected to come down to the wire. And yeah, like you said, the Breslin Center is tough. And I love the breakdown you gave about Ty Rogers, what they're doing with him in the pick and roll. And he is someone who at the beginning of the year, I couldn't figure out what his role is, but now he's becomes what's one of the best glue guys in the conference, if not the country, with the way he goes high up for these rebounds. And like you say, he doesn't shoot well, but they have surrounded him with shooters. Pretty much everyone else in that starting lineup can shoot the 3. So Rogers can just run around. He gets big rebounds. In this game against Nebraska, he had 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. He's doing a little bit of everything. He can drive to the basket, even when the opponents, when his defenders, they lay off him because they're not worried about the jump shot. He still finds a way to get to the basket. He dunks the ball when he's cutting to the basket, and he receives those passes. He just does a little bit of everything. So I'm really starting to appreciate his role, and that will be on display in that big game against Michigan State. So those are the 2 games that highlight this big weekend of Big Ten hoops. We already talked about the big game at Rutgers. My Nittany Lions are playing tonight, trying to get back to 500. So that's going to be interesting. Maryland has to go to Ohio State. Maryland desperately needs wins at this time of year, because that is a team with NCAA tournament expectations every season. And we've ridden the roller coaster with Maryland and how they are a defensive team, and Jameer Young's playing well all year, but then Julian Reese has these games where the other day he almost fouled out and he only scored 2 points, so that was a big problem for Maryland. But we've seen them play well when they can get Reese and Young going at the same time. Their defense is always solid, so that gives them enough offense. And then we'll see. What game? What was I interested in seeing? We'll just see if Michigan, if they can build some momentum, but in order to build some momentum, they will have to go into Lincoln, where no Big Ten team can win. The only team that's won in Pinnacle Bank Arena all year has been Creighton. So we'll see if Michigan can build on that. And it's going to be another big upset if they do make a winning streak and win at Nebraska. So yeah, that's the highlight. It's going to be a big Saturday. You got the big game at 2, you got the big game at 8, you got action all day long. And then we'll be back sometime next week, as long as New Jersey Transit doesn't screw my family over again. We're going to be back next week to talk about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got Deon Thomas at Deon Thomas 25 on X, and I am at Aaron P. York. And we are part of the Believe Network, Believe.com, where there's podcasts on just about anything. We are on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. You can leave a 5-star review on Apple. It's all there. I'm excited to get back next week and talk about these games. Not everything is going to go according to plan because it never does. So from Deon Thomas and me, Aaron York, have a good one. Peace out. Enjoy the Big Ten basketball.